Okay, I know how long to run my system, but I don't know how often. Should I be doing it every day? Do I need to increase or decrease as the year goes on, or do it every other day? Today, we're going to talk about irrigation frequency. And by the end of this video, you'll know how often to run your drip system. One of the most popular questions that we get asked is really a theme about how much water to give your plants. And that can be, what flow rate should your drippers be? But it can also be, how often do you run your irrigation system? When it comes to drip irrigation, it can be a little bit challenging to lock in a watering frequency, and that's because our gardens tend to be mixed. A lot of different plants with a lot of different watering needs. Fortunately, the watering needs are all pretty close to one another within a window. And so it's okay to have a mixed garden with different plants on the exact same zone and still get a high yield out of your garden. Not only do we have different plants in our mixed gardens, but we have a lot of different ways we grow them, from raised beds to short raised beds, round raised beds, hanging baskets, grow bags, containers, pots, and more. And these different containers benefit from different application rates of water, particularly when it comes down to the frequency. For example, a hanging basket is going to need more frequent watering because it's so shallow, the soil dries out very quickly. Where a raised bed like this one is tall enough that it can retain moisture throughout its entire height. But hanging baskets also drain so well that it's not necessarily a problem if they get a little bit more water than necessary, if it means other areas of the garden are getting what they need. If you had dozens of hanging baskets, there becomes a point where you'd consider just zoning them off into their own zone so you don't have to make any trade-offs with the rest of the garden. So when it comes to watering frequency, you can't really optimize for each and every one of these on a mixed garden unless you have way more zones than is convenient on a residential garden. So you have to kind of find a watering frequency that works for a lot of different growing situations. Probably the biggest influence on watering frequency is going to be the time of year. For example, in spring, you might start off with just one day of watering, particularly if you are in an area that's still getting precipitation in the spring, where by the heat of summer, if you get hot, dry summers, you might be watering every single day or even twice a day every single day to ensure that the plants are getting enough moisture to thrive. Time of day that you water will also impact this. If you set your drip system to water during the middle of the day when the sun is at its hottest, you're going to lose a lot of water to evaporation, which will speed up how often you need to water. Aim for early in the morning to maximize infiltration into the soil before the sun starts to evaporate the water. Annuals and perennials are another thing to account for when you're considering your watering frequency. Any plant that you're growing as an annual, such as tomatoes, are going to have their watering needs ramp up pretty quickly. Right now in mid-May, I can feel the plants that we grow as annuals, such as this tomato plant, need more water every single day. So we've had to increase the frequency to maintain that level of moisture in the soil. And that's really what it comes down to, whether it's what flow of your emitters or how often you should run your irrigation system. It's all about maintaining that soil moisture level. You want your soil to be moist, but not soggy. And that's really the key for almost any plant that you grow in a mixed garden. So while you can't have 50 zones for each different type of plant, you really have one goal in mind, and that's to maintain a good level of soil moisture. And there's a lot of ways to do that, even in a mixed garden where you're growing a lot of different types of plants, even trees, on the same shared zones. For example, we designed our Drip Depot landscape irrigation kit to incorporate emitters with varying flow rates that can thus sufficiently water a lot of different plant types and sizes on the same watering schedule. The easiest way to tell if your soil moisture is at a good point for your plants is just a simple finger test. Push your finger in just a couple inches of the soil, and well, you'll be able to feel if there's moisture or not, but when you pull your finger out, some of the dirt should be sticking to it, but it should still be a little bit flaky and crumbly. If it's wet and soggy and all clumping together, you've got too much water. If your finger comes out bone dry and the dirt just falls right off, well, then it's too dry. Here's a container that we haven't hooked up to the irrigation system yet, so it's likely to be dry. Let's test the soil with the old finger test. As you can see, all the soil fell right off my finger. There's very little moisture. In addition to the finger test, you can also use a screwdriver, or if you really want to dial it in, you can use a soil moisture sensor to check various places in your garden to make sure the moisture is in the green on the moisture sensor. Now, if it's been a day or so since you've watered, don't worry if the top half inch or so is dry. This is normal and ideal. If you dig a little deeper, you should find moist soil underneath. Most plants have root zones situated 1 to 12 inches deep in the soil. So that's really where you need the water to be anyways. The opposite is what you actually want to watch out for. What you want to avoid is a situation where the top inch of soil is deceptively wet, while underneath it's bone dry. This is a common problem with hand watering that drip irrigation solves with each plant getting a slow, deep watering from an emitter. You may have heard the term deep and infrequent watering before. This is especially used with trees. The idea behind deep but infrequent watering is just about maintaining a sufficient amount of water for a plant. That's what it comes down to for every plant that we normally grow in a garden. Short, infrequent waterings are not as effective at soaking the soil beyond a few inches. Drip irrigation makes this easy because you can set the timer to run the system for, say, 40 minutes. 40 minutes is a long time for a plant to be getting watered. It's almost outlandish to think about doing that yourself with a hose. So remember that when using drip irrigation, you're going to be getting that deep watering effect. So you may have a bit more space in between waterings than you would when watering by hand. Just keep testing the soil and make adjustments as needed until you've dialed in a watering schedule that works for your plants. So I think the most important thing to keep in mind is don't try to be optimal for every single plant because that is going to be impossible. Now, a farmer growing a monocrop, they can calculate everything to dial it in perfectly, but on a mixed garden, we just want to have good results and a good yield year after year in our garden. And you can do that on a garden with mixed plants by simply going with a watering frequency that maintains that soil moisture level at a good point. You'll even notice that on most transplant labels you'll get from the nursery, many plants will say to simply keep soil consistently moist or keep soil evenly moist, which is exactly what drip irrigation does exceptionally well. All the different plants in the garden is the reason why we have so many different kinds of emitters. And not only do we have different kinds of emitters, but there's different ways of using them. The flow rate of the emitters you use have a pretty big impact on watering frequency. For example, this ring has 3 half a gallon per hour emitters in the ring, which means this whole container is getting about 1.5 gallons per hour. Now we come over here and we have an adjustable dripper that's probably putting out somewhere between 7 and 10 gallons per hour. Now, if you want to go into depth with flow rate choices, I've made a video titled How to Choose the Right Drip Emitter Flow Rate that you can watch after this one. Because if you are working with in-ground beds, you're probably working with a specific soil type that could drastically impact how you water. For example, you could be watering in clay soil that takes a long time to soak in. If watered too fast, you could end up needing to water more often because the water is just not soaking in fast enough and evaporating away before it can reach the roots. If they're on the same zone, how do we maintain the same watering frequency? Well, that comes down to the emitters you're using. Take this one, for example. If you have an adjustable dripper on the same zone as a ring that's delivering 1.5 gallons per hour, how do you manage the frequency? Well, that's where how you use your emitters comes into play. On the adjustable dripper, well, it's adjustable. So you can turn it down very low, and in that way, we can keep the same watering frequency schedule throughout the garden while still providing the right amount of water for each plant. I've made a video titled 4 main drip irrigation emitters and when to use them that you can watch after this video to learn more about the different types of drip irrigation emitters and what to consider when determining the best choice for your plants. So, you might still be nervous about what to do when summer really hits hard. Imagine the hottest part of summer where you're at. How much water is it going to take to make sure your soil maintains the exact right moisture level for your garden plants? If you've never used a drip irrigation system before, that might be a little bit challenging because you're not used to the lower flow, the slower application of water, but also the improved efficiency with water going straight to the roots. And it can throw people off sometimes because they don't see the whole top of the bed being wet, which is the visual test is what a lot of folks use to determine soil moisture levels. And of course, that doesn't always work with drip irrigation because when done right, there's only a small wet surface on top of the soil. So what can you do in a situation like that? Well, there's always the finger test that we've discussed to test the soil moisture levels or the manual soil moisture sensors so that you can get a feel for how your drip system interacts with your garden. You can also take suggestions written on a lot of nursery tags or infographics stating to water your plants with, say, 1 to 2 inches of water per week. But if you're using a drip system, that doesn't tell you much because your drippers don't measure inches. They measure time. So how do you translate inches into a timer setting? If you're used to watering based on inches of rain, we have a guide that explains how to convert the gallons per hour measurement that we use in drip irrigation into a roughly equivalent inches of water that you can check out in the top right or description below. But a lot of timers and controllers now come with options to help you make these decisions. And some of the newer ones come with Wi-Fi functionality that can see the cloud weather data and make adjustments automatically based on actual weather conditions in your area. The only other factor I really consider is that I run it before the sun comes up to reduce evaporation. Otherwise, if I watered during the day, the sun would evaporate the water before it can soak in, which would force me to water more often. And I don't run it when it rains. Rain will be the single most sudden disruptor of your typical watering frequency schedule. I have a rain sensor set up so that it automatically shuts off the irrigation when it rains, but if I didn't, I would just come in and shut the irrigation off for the day with the rain delay button, which lets you select a specific duration you want your delay to last for, and then it will return to the normal schedule after that delay is over. Beyond those tools, perhaps one of the biggest steps you can take to help your beds maintain the right level of moisture without extremely long watering cycles is to simply add mulch to your beds. Not only is mulch a powerful soil moisture retention tool, but it also helps control the climate a little bit, keep things a little bit cooler, which is very important in a lot of the areas with extreme temperatures. Watering cycle duration has some impact on frequency, but you'd be surprised at how minimal it is. During the hottest part of summer, if it's best to water every day, it's best to water every day, whether you're doing it for 2 hours or 1 hour. You might just make your plants way too wet for part of a day before the sun bakes out the moisture. You're still gonna need to water every day. So duration does have an impact on frequency, but not as much as you'd expect. Mulch has the more powerful impact on frequency because it is going to hold the moisture that you apply for longer. With all those different emitter types out there, how do you know which one to get that's going to best maintain that level of moisture you need in your beds? Take the 1/4-inch strip line that we put in our raised bed kits, for example. We took the time to think about how this would work in gardens all around the country to maintain good levels of soil moisture. So we took into account some people are going to need to water every single day because they have hot, dry summers, where other folks in higher humidity or cooler states or growing in the shade with a lot of mulch aren't going to need every day. So we looked for an emitter that could work in both those situations. So even if you're not looking for a kit and you're going to customize your system from top to bottom, you can use Drip Depot irrigation kits as a template. Take a look, use them for inspiration, see what emitters we use so you can build a drip system that takes care of all your plants for years to come.